Well, Charles James filed this story for Sierra Wave Media. The Inyo County Board of Supervisors will conduct its first meeting of the new year Tuesday, starting at 10 a.m. in Independence. On the agenda, the selection of a new board chairperson as well as vice chairperson for 2015. Also scheduled is a presentation of the Eastern Sierra Family Guide to warm water fishing by Dick Knowles, advocates for public lands, as well as Pam Foster, Senior Deputy County Administrator, Inyo County Parks and Recreation. Also, Inyo County Sheriff Bill Lutz is requesting to fill one lieutenant position vacancy internally due to the retirement of Undersheriff Keith Hardcastle last month. Now, filling the Undersheriff position will create a vacancy in the rank of lieutenant in the Inyo County Sheriff Department. Also on the agenda is a request for approval to purchases of two big ticket items for Inyo County Recycling and Waste Management. Now, a landfill compactor, bids ranged from $710,000 to $764,000, and a front end wheel loader, bids range from $225,000 to $247,000. Financing has been structured to allow Inyo County to make the first annual payment of $146,825, take possession of both pieces of equipment, and then make 6 annual payments of $146,825 with a final lump sum payment of $110. Inyo County Board of Supervisors will also receive a recap of the Lower Owens River Project Summit from the Water Department, as well as a recommendation from the Senior Deputy County Administrator for a resolution establishing camping, boat launching, group camping, storage, and senior citizen camping permit fees and setting fees. Also, the Inyo County Board of Supervisors generally scheduled to meet Tuesdays in Independence unless otherwise noted on the county website. A complete listing of the Board of Supervisors agendas and supporting documentation can be found on the Inyo County website, inyocounty.us. Well, Dan Watson has retired as the police chief of the Mammoth Lakes Police Department, ending over 4 decades of public service. Sierra Wave Media's Rob Gill talked with the outgoing chief.
I started in July of 2010. I was finishing up over 8 years as the chief in South Pasadena, which is a nice small town in LA County. And I wasn't quite ready to retire, and Kathleen Sheehan, who was the chief in Bishop at the time, was a former colleague of mine at LAPD. And Mammoth was looking for an interim chief for 1 year. And she called me out of the blue and said, hey, you know, that what they're looking for, you have the right experience and skill set, and you'd be a good guy. And initially I wasn't really all that interested in coming to Mammoth. I was established down south, and frankly, I'd never been to Mammoth before. And they offered to put my wife and I up overnight, and she and I both like road trips. And I said, well, let's go to Mammoth and we'll see what it's like. And came up and interviewed, and we kind of connected. The town manager at the time was Rob Clark, and you know, after a 2-hour interview, and having spent a day or two in town, I thought, you know, this might be a really good fit. And I was offered the position, and came up about a month and a half later. I left South Pasadena on July 2nd and started here July 5th, and that 1-year interim became a permanent position, and 4.5 years later, I'm still here. Well, when I got here 4.5 years ago, the department was kind of shell-shocked. There'd been a number of incidents and investigations that shed a poor light on the department. And I was asked to come in and look at where we were and make any necessary changes and kind of bring the department back. And it didn't take long to figure out that it just needed some fine-tuning. I realized quickly we had a really good group of people that were working here. I met with every employee, and again, I was only going to be here for a year, so I asked them, you know, what should I focus my attention on? Tell me 3 priorities. And almost everybody said the same 2 things. They said, we need to restore our reputation in the community because we were really well respected at one time, and we've lost that due to some incidents. And tell us what you want and hold us accountable. And when I realized that's what they saw my role was going to be, I realized this was going to be where we were going to be okay. The officers knew what they needed, and it was not all that challenging to give them that direction and work with the media and community groups, and I believe the reputation of the department now is much better. And I think it's a good department filled with really good people that are committed to doing a good job and providing good service to our residents and visitors. From the town, we have been we've been through the valley, and we're climbing out of it. The bankruptcy really changed town government. We're much smaller than we used to be. I think we're more efficient than we used to be, and it was extremely challenging to get through. But we're on the road to recovery. When the council when they settled the lawsuit and they had to figure out a way to come up with $2 million out of their budget, they ended up taking 61% of it out of the police department. That wasn't something that I thought was the right thing to do, but I clearly know where my role is. My job was to give them my advice and recommendations, and when the decision was made, that's what the final budget amendments were going to be. It was, how are we as an organization going to respond to that and continue to provide the best service possible when we've lost 41% of our sworn personnel? And thankfully, the members of the department, they rallied behind that as a challenge, and we had to make a lot of difficult changes. And we stopped operating 24 hours a day. We approached certain things differently. There were things we used to do we can no longer do. But everybody's attitude was, how do we make this work? As a result of that, we've implemented a reserve program. I'm really pleased that we were able to get the number of reserve officers that we have. We've started a volunteer program that's in its infancy and I think has a future. And we've come through that, I think, reasonably well. I still worry about it. My last council meeting last week, I gave my last bit of advice to the council, and that was that as the economy improves and as revenue increases, along with all the other important priorities, they have to rebuild the police department to an acceptable level, and that's going to take a long time. We lost 7 people virtually overnight, and it's going to take years to get back to where I think we ought to be. And one more thing, you asked what the greatest accomplishments. When I first got here, a couple of my officers told me that we had a disconnect with our Hispanic and immigrant community, and that there never been much of an outreach at all to them. So based on their advice and some recommendations, we put together a committee of stakeholders in the community, and we call it the Mammoth Lakes Police Community Hispanic Advisory Committee, and we started a series of town hall meetings, and I'm very confident that the relationship and the level of trust and communication and understanding between law enforcement and our immigrant Hispanic community is dramatically better. And that was done through the hard work of a whole lot of people, but I think we've made a lot of progress in that area.
Now that's an articulate man right there. We'll have more from this interview with retired Mammoth Lakes Police Chief Dan Watson, whose retirement party is coming up this Saturday at Mammoth Mountains Canyon Lodge. Contact the Mammoth Lakes Police Department for more information. We'll be back with weather and sports.